Hey Spider, I got a nice juicy roach for you. Oh f.
You know, just like in every other hobby that you spend time with, you are going to grow as a keeper. And as time flies, things that once were exciting might become routine. Weird and unique behavior that once concerned or scared you might become familiar. And just like that, bad habits and strange or risky ideas might start to creep in on you as well. In this video, I want to talk about 4 things in detail you might start to notice within yourself as time passes within the hobby. And I want to encourage you to recognize the patterns so that your tarantula care keeps improving and stays that way. Imagine you're a new keeper and every interaction with your animal is exciting. Feeding, watering, most of all, rehousing. You get the thrills when you need to move your tarantula into a catch cup. And as time passes, you might start to get more and more tarantulas, as many of us do. At the same time, you will grow as a keeper. Feeding is still exciting for the most part, but maintenance and watering might become a little bit of a chore, and you might have 10 or 20 something tarantulas by that time. The thing is, tarantula keeping shouldn't feel like a chore. And while that initial excitement might have given away for familiarity, it should still be something you enjoy. However, I think most of us have busy lives in some way, and efficiency is necessary. The first recommendation, and a bit of a no-brainer, is don't get more tarantulas than you can efficiently care for. Yes, checking up on your animals, doing basic maintenance such as watering or spot cleaning might only be a minute or two, but a minute times 30 is still half an hour. As a reference, what I do with currently 25 animals is I do a quick checkup on them daily, refill water dishes, if necessary identify non-emergency maintenance points, which I then address on Sunday evenings, which is also feeding time for my tarantulas. And I always only feed by watching their abdomens and their behavior. They are going to tell me when they're hungry by coming out more often, by roaming around in their enclosure more often. In that way, I don't need to feed all of my tarantulas every week, and that also saves some time. If they never show themselves, or if they are, let's put it bluntly, if they're fat, sorry, but you gotta wait a week longer. This is what works for me and keeps my enclosures nice, and hopefully my tarantulas also happy. Now, let's talk about breeding. First point, if you think breeding is easy money, think again. Let's do the math. A Lasiodora Parahybana, for instance, can lay 1,500 to 2,000 eggs in a single sack. Yeah. Even if half of the slings make it, that's 750 to 1,000 tiny tarantulas that you need to house, feed, and eventually sell. And selling is and can be a problem. The market for common species like that is saturated, and tarantulas are kind of a niche market. So if just one other sack is produced, you have some strong competition for quite a limited demand. So the odds are you won't be able to move through even half of your tarantulas. And in the meantime, you're stuck feeding, watering and maintaining hundreds of small animals with a very small profit margin. So no, breeding is not easy money, if it's money at all. And that's assuming everything goes right. You need to condition your animals for breeding, which means perfect husbandry for months. You need a male that's actually fertile and a female that's receptive. And even then, there's no guarantee of a sac or a fertile sac or a sac that hatches. You might end up with a male that gets eaten by the female and without a sac. So at this point, you won't even have a sac or a male. And if you do get a successful sac, you are now responsible for the lives of potentially thousands of slings. Can you distribute them? Do you have the space, the feeders, the time? So if you want to breed, think through it carefully beforehand. Start with something easy. Start with something that doesn't produce too many slings in one sack. Ease your way into it. Alright, let's move on to the third mistake. Getting too comfortable, and I mean way too comfortable with your tarantulas.
Hey Spider, I got a nice juicy roach for you. Oh f.
So you've had your tarantula for a year, let's say. You've seen it molt, you've seen it eat, and you've seen it do its little tarantula things. And you start to think you've got it figured out. Like, oh, she's always calm, or he never bolts, she loves being handled. But the reality is, tarantula personalities can change. Firstly, sure, from mold to mold, but also from day to day. That docile Grammostola pulchra that has been a pet rock for months might decide that today is the day that it had enough of your nonsense. And that's normal, because tarantulas aren't that predictable. They react to sensory inputs that we as humans cannot even grasp. They are wild animals with wild instincts, basically. And that overconfidence often leads to handling, which, let me be clear, I discourage. Look, I get it. Handling can be quite a thrill. It can feel like bonding. It's a nice feeling to have your pet crawl all over your hand. But here's the thing. Tarantulas don't want to be handled. They tolerate it at best. And that tolerance can disappear in an instant as soon as they feel some disturbance that you might not even have recognized beforehand. One wrong move, a sudden vibration, and you've got a spine on the floor. Or even worse, a spider with a broken abdomen. But it's not just handling. Overconfidence leads to other unsafe practices. For instance, hand feeding. Like, she's never bitten me before. Yeah, famous last words. Tarantulas have lightning fast reflexes, and if that prey item brushes against the fangs at the wrong angle or the wrong place, you're going to get tagged. And some species, their venom really packs a punch. Then there's the finger poke, something that I have also done in the past and which is really not a good thing. You know, when you gently try to nudge your tarantula with your fingers to move somewhere, instead of using a brush. Yeah, that's also a great way to get a nasty bite. Fortunately, when I did that in the past, nothing happened. But now I'm smarter and I'm not risking that again. And that's the core issue here, you know, losing respect for what these animals are. Tarantulas are not pets in the traditional sense. They are wild predators with powerful defenses. And the second you forget that, you're asking for trouble. Think about that. Your finger could just be the right size for a prey item. And that brings me to the final mistake, which is stopping to learn. The I already know it all mindset. And here's the truth. The tarantula hobby is constantly evolving. What was gospel 5 years ago might be outdated today. And if you stop learning, you stop growing as a keeper. Let's take ICUs as an example. For years, ICUs were the go-to solution for dehydrated tarantulas. And the logic behind them was simple. Stick a dehydrated spider in a container with damp paper towels, high humidity and a bit of warmth, and let it rehydrate. And for a while that worked, or at least we thought it worked. But here's the problem. Spiking the moisture to 99% humidity is often fatal for tarantulas. Tarantulas breathe through what's called book lungs, which are on the underside of their abdomen. And when you drown those for too long, you have got a dead spider. Approach that is accepted nowadays is a direct water application to the mouth parts and not a sauna. And yet, countless care sheets and forum posts still recommend ICUs for dehydration. Why? Because the hobby is slow to adapt its knowledge. Because we assumed we had it figured out. And then, for instance, there's research on tarantula recognition. For a long time, we assumed that tarantulas are simple creatures, so let's say patrocks with legs. But the science tells different stories nowadays. There's been debate and recent studies that show that tarantulas and spiders in general are far more capable than we gave them credit for. Like, recent research showed that spiders exhibit selective attention and even spatial memory. What does this mean for keeping tarantulas? That means our animals are capable of more than we thought. If a tarantula has spatial recognition, can remember landmarks, does a bare featureless enclosure stress it out or not? We don't know. But we can put in the effort to make a great enclosure that resembles their natural environment as best as possible. The point is, our understanding of tarantulas is not static. New research comes out all the time, and if you're staying not up to date, you're just not missing out on cool facts, you're potentially providing suboptimal care. Keep learning and engage with the community, because the second you think you know all is the second you stop being a good keeper. There you have it, 4 mistakes that can creep in as you grow in this hobby. Getting lazy with maintenance, jumping into breeding too soon, getting comfortable with your spiders, and stopping to learn. The common thread is complacency. So stay sharp, stay humble, and most importantly, keep it simple. Stay curious and let your spiders be spiders.